886, bottom paragraph. You should choose for your life. You should choose something which will save you and cause that your Torah, your spirituality, or he says your secular life should be intact. He says, be cognizant of the need to discipline, to desist from bad base habits. He says, be aware of the need for diligence in matters for your latter end. Alan. You should be cognizant. Zrizos means, he says you should be diligent. Okay? Zrizos means more than diligent. Your intellect should be the dominant force. He says, and your humility, your vizier. And your wisdom should be the one that guides you. And abstinence should be what's favorite to you. You should go slowly and with deliberation when you acquire good characteristics. That you should be able to tolerate all the issues. People, they move too quickly. The change happens too quickly. Just a question of time before you revert back to where you start. Things have to gradually develop. You understand you're deficient in many areas, so you work on one, or many, but slowly, little by little. It may take a half a lifetime to achieve what you want to achieve. But if you go to the extreme immediately and believing that it's going to hold, it's not going to hold. So therefore, he says you should do it with deliberation, slowly, when you acquire the good characteristics. Because otherwise you're forcing yourself. Anytime you force yourself to do anything, it's just a question of time before actually you become overwhelmed with it. He says you have to be careful in terms of excessiveness, and he says in moderation, and not proceeding gradually. It's interesting. It's this nice thing. You have a candle burning, and now you want to add oil to the candle. If you add that oil too quickly, you know what you do? The oil extinguishes the light, the flame. I mean, you have to put it in very slowly from the side, because otherwise, you put it in, you can extinguish the light. But oil is the fuel. And oil has value, has potential, but you have to do it gradually. The same thing, you go too quickly, you'll accomplish nothing, and not only that, you're going to actually regress rather than advance because of that. It's interesting. However, by Sephardim it works. I'm not talking about characteristics. Versus religiosity, going from irreligious to religious by Sephardim works almost in a very short period of time. Ashkenazim doesn't work. Doesn't work. Sephardim, in terms of their emotional makeup, they're just off because it's a lack of understanding. But once they get it, they're there immediately. there's a tremendous amount of emotion which has to do with religion. They have the emotion that's needed so that they have it.
And it holds?
And it holds. By Sfardim, it holds.
What is this? Right?
It's only, there's it's an intensity of personality, an emotional personality. They just have to, they get it, they hear it, they're there. With an Ashkenazi person, it's more cerebral, it's not so emotional, and as a result of that, you have not only the intellect cannot control your emotion and your feelings and your physical and emotional needs. So I get it, I understand it, but you have to win yourself. You have to win yourself from where you were. You can't just go immediately. Of course, intellectually may be there, but what are your feelings? You're not there, it's not going to hold. It's like a person says, I hear what you're saying, I get what you're saying, but. There's no but. The answer is, because emotionally, you're not there, and that's a tremendous block. Well, you're going to force yourself, but how long could you force yourself? It's just too much. So it has to be gradual. That you have to actually acclimate the emotion, and it's a gradual change. It can take a very long period of time. But again, it becomes part of your feelings. Anything which you're conditioned to do, the Rambam in Hilchos Deos speaks about, we're born with characteristics, but you could acquire newer characteristics. Through conditioning, you could establish a second nature. But he explains how to do it. It takes time. Initially, certain things you have to go to the extreme, and gradually you'll come to the equidistant point. There's certain things. And you get back, it's like a pendulum. Swings to one side, and eventually it comes to the center. But again, as I always say, the name of Rabbi Shoslanter, the fifth section of Torah hasn't been printed, of Shulchan Aruch. It's called Seichel. Everything you need Seichel. Without Seichel, it doesn't work. Doesn't work. That's the reason why years ago. Today, unfortunately, it's really a very, very rare commodity. Almost doesn't exist today in the Torah world. Years ago, you had a person who was called a mashgiach. What was a mashgiach? He was talking about a person who understood the human, besides being developed in many other areas, he understood exactly how to deal with the emotion and the intellect and human character, and he was able to make an evaluation of a person exactly how slow he must go and what he has to address first and second and third. And each person, they know two people that are alike. And he would make that evaluation just speaking to you for 15 minutes. I'm going back 50 years ago. Those kinds of mashgiachim were from Europe, came over, and they had that ability. My mashgiach, Zechariah Livrocha, who was a Mira Talmud from Europe, so he used to say, it says that by Avram Avinu, it says, Atu yodati ishi fastorat. He was on his way to Egypt. He says, now I see you're a beautiful woman. Now I realize you're a beautiful woman. I mean, he was married how many years, Avram, to his wife? Now you realize your wife is beautiful. And what about until then? So there's a midrash. The midrash says, it's one pshat, Rashi says, now I have to be concerned about your beauty. Not that he didn't realize till then. Because since the Egyptians are what they are, now we have to be concerned. The other pshat, Rashi says, it's a midrash, that Avram Avinu, he saw Sarah's reflection in the pond, and now he realized, he says, now I realize how beautiful you are. So he asked the question. The last half an hour every Friday afternoon, he used to speak on Chumash, my mashgiach. Just tell me what he said. This goes back to 1966, this year, 1966. He said that, he spoke about himself, he says, any student in the yeshiva, with one glance, I can tell you everything about this student. His personality, his weaknesses, his strengths, with one glance. But if he asked me what color his eyes are, although I've spoken to him many times, I couldn't tell you what color his eyes are. Because it's not something I focus on. He says, Avram Avinu, when he saw his wife, did he gaze on her beauty? Now, because of the circumstance, he saw he saw the beauty. It wasn't as seeing the whole person in the totality of the person. That's what he said. That's how he explained it. Okay? So I'm saying, to be able to make an evaluation, what, how, when. There was a person, he was a member of Knesset when the State of Israel was founded. He was he had a special relationship with the Chazon Ish and the Brisker Rav. His name was Shlomo Lawrence. Very special Jew. He originally was a Hungarian Jew. I don't know, I'm sure he came from Munkac. And he went from Hungary, he went to the Mir in Europe. And he was a genius. Had a genius mind. Very capable. Besides being genius, he was a very capable person. And he comes to the Mir. So the Mashgiach, when he came, was Rabbi Rucham Levavot, Zechat Tzadok Levrocha. And he has a conversation with him. Then when he came from Hungary, the trains that he had taken, the hotels where he stopped over, just that casual conversation, inane discussion, unrelated to anything relating to studying or anything. And then afterwards he says to him, he says, you know, I have the study partner for you. Where are you going to stay in your residence, the people you're going to room with? And he says, okay, and he was like amazed. Only 2-3 years later did he realize that he understood him to his core in terms of his temperaments, his personality, his intellect, his ability, and all the questions he asked him about the hotel and the food he ate and the train and this and that. That was all to make that evaluation and hear how he responds. You understand? We don't have these kinds of people today anymore. They don't exist. They don't exist. So today a person wants to become more religious. How do you do it? What do you tell him? The full gamut, you know, it's too much. As he says, it doesn't hold. It's gradual. It's, of course, the intellect, you may grasp it, but that's not going to get you there. It's a gradual process to be continued.
So if someone comes to you, to us, and they say, you know, I'm looking to do this, and you feel like it's too much for them, but they're looking to take on certain things.
I mean, the people who have
they're
ability.
They're not always going to go to the rabbi. That's the...
No, of course you should have to advise them. So you should go speak to somebody who has an expertise in this, and you advise them as a result of it.
What about all the Birkat Amazons you miss, knowing you're missing them? Or like, sometimes you remember that, I missed the Birkat Amazons.
Yeah, once the time passes, you can't say it any longer.
You can't. Are you culpable for all the Birkat Amazons you missed?
Yes, you have to do tshuva. So you regret it, and you make a commitment that you can be careful. So that corrects, that's a correction all the times you missed it. Or anything you did wrong.
Why do we no longer have people like the Mashgiachim?
How many Einsteins do you have?
Right now, 0.
These people were mentored by special people. It's like a tradition, it's an expertise. You're mentored by special people. And as time goes on, it becomes less and less. It's all a mentoring process. It's like, you know what we say, a doctor, certain doctors have an ability, diagnostic ability. Diagnostician, there were certain doctors, they were known for that. Actual practicing medicine, they weren't so great. But as a diagnostician, they're one of a kind. The moment they saw you wreck this and that, they knew exactly who to send you to, or what had to be done. That was their ability. It's an evaluation.